You ever recorded a video and you go to edit it and you realize that your mic was not on? That's what happened to me. And I'm sick, so doing this twice is not what I anticipated. And my throat hurts, but the show must go on. So let's talk about what I read in the month of August, which is slightly less than I anticipated. Audacity is up on my monitor. Who cares? So getting it out of the way, what I did not get to that was on my TBR for August, The Wind Through the Keyhole, so Dark Tower 4.5 technically, and The Warrior by Stephen Arion. The reason I did not get to those is because of I basically took like a week or so break just with kind of not necessarily burnout, but I'll tell you why in a second. Essentially what happened was I was invited to reread a couple of Dresden books. So books 4, 5, and 6, Summer Night, Death Mass, and Blood Rights, and join a discussion for that with AJ Carroll, his channel, and the discussion that we had linked down below. Go check him out. He's also a self-pub author, which I have his lovely, lovely books over there that you probably can't see because it's dark back there. But basically, I read these in about 3.5 days. And that's pretty normal for Dresden books for me, just because between audio with James Marsters and just reading them, they fly by. It's crazy how fast these go. You can't really put them down, and they're short, and it's like a nonstop moving narrative. So it's really, really fun to get through. And after binging them for, like I said, about 3.5 days, I took about a week off of reading. And no particular reason. I just wanted to do other things after flying through this many pages of Dresden books. So obviously, on my reread of these, though, and I did not start from Stormfront, so I will go back eventually and fill those in before our next discussion, which I believe is going to be in October or November for the next 3 books in the series. I'm going to put these down. But on my reread of these, I really loved all 3. I still don't love the main plot of Blood Rights, simply because I don't care about Arturo and his wives and the whole porn set plot that Harry was on. Although the premise is funny, having Harry Dresden unknowingly put into this porn set as, not an extra, but like a stagehand, essentially. It's somewhat funny, but the main plot of this just didn't really grab me. Blood Rights really focuses more on family dynamics and character moments surrounding that. So I did like it a lot more this time around. And in general, this reread of these books is great just because of having the knowledge of where these things go in the future. So knowing where some of these storylines pay off, where some of these characters end up, is really great to go back and see kind of how quaint some of these stories are. I didn't really love Summer Night that much the first time I read it. I had it pretty low on my overall, Dresden rankings. And that's just because I don't love the Fae, just in general. Fantasy in general, I'm not a big fairy person. I did enjoy it a lot more this time around, simply because, again, seeing where some of these plot threads go and just seeing the scope of where Dresden started to expand to, learning about these fairy queens and princesses and mothers and ladies, how godly they are in a sense. Like, they're super duper powerful, and just the power level is like way off the charts for these chicks. And Harry really getting a taste of this ever expanding universe that turns into full-blown epic fantasy as the series goes on. It's not, a quaint noir, detective novel anymore, even as of Summer Night. But again, I didn't care too much about like the Chlorophene and the troll or whatever that they fought. Some of that wasn't that interesting, which leads me into Death Mass, though, which I thought at the time of reading it and now rereading it, basically the same thoughts. This book really stepped up, like way over the rest of Dresden up to that point. Having Nicodemus be such a terrifying force, and the Denarians, having, what happens with Shiro in that book, the Knights of the Cross really playing this, combative force against evil. Harry, again, learning more and more about just the crazy things that are out there lurking in the night. It has one of my favorite Dresden moments in the series when they confront Cassius at the end of the book, and Dresden is just begging these, goody two-shoe Knights of the Cross to just end this guy because he's going to come back and bite you in the ass. they're like, nope, that's not what we do. And then Harry's like, you know what? They're good people. Unfortunately for you, I'm not. And then just takes it from there. One of my favorite Dresden moments of all time. So the reread of these 3 books was fantastic. I'm looking forward to continuing a slower reread of these and just having more conversations with them. So again, that'll be linked down in the description below, and check it out. Next up, I finally finished the last Sanderson book that I owned, which was Emperor's Soul. So that is the novella that takes place somehow in the world of Elantris. I don't really know how that ties in, but as a novella goes, it's one of the better ones that I've read for sure. Certainly better than Edge Dancer. But I don't hold it in as high regard as a lot of Sanderson fans seem to, whereas I have nothing wrong with it, really. If you had to ask me like my biggest negative about it, I don't even know what to tell you. I didn't really have a problem with it. I enjoyed it for what it was. I like Shay as a character. I liked her dynamic with Gautona. I like how this was more so of like a character study and, short glimpse into what forgery is as a magic system. It's not super action-packed. The action that does take place is only for a couple of pages toward the end of the book. So it's really just about these characters and their interactions and their dialogue, and that was super cool. It was well written, of course, as most of Sanderson's books are. I wasn't bored even with, the very, very little action that's in it, but I can't help but compare it to other novels that he's written. So when people say Emperor's Soul is the single best thing that he's written, more power to you. The way that I view books is I look at it more of an enjoyment standpoint and just how I felt reading it in general. So I personally just love Mistborn and I love Stormlight Archive. I don't see how this holds a candle to either of those series. Now, some of the writing may technically be better. Sure. If you want to go that route, that's fine. For me, it's just, I like it. It was good as a novella. I would be certainly interested in seeing more from this world and these characters if he does expand on it. Certainly. It just, I find it hard to believe that this novella is better, quote unquote, than a lot of, Stormlight Archive, Words of Radiance. Like, there's no way this is better than Words of Radiance. Sorry. But that's where I stand on this. It was good. I enjoyed it. But I just like other Sanderson stuff more. I also like other Sanderson stuff less, so it is better than some of it. Edge Dancer, Elantris, Era 2. Yeah, Emperor's Soul is better. And then, of course, we had Jade War by Fonda Lee. So book 2 of the Greenbone Saga, and I just hit myself in the face with the book. Put that down. So this was a fantastic follow-up to Jade City. I loved where a lot of the clan war sort of led throughout this book. There were some crazy moments in this book for sure that caught me off guard. There's a scene halfway through, 3/4 of the way through this book where I was just like, oh shit, okay. Fonda Lee doesn't pull punches. This series can get pretty violent. Characters can die. And I really like that and appreciate that about these novels so far. And just overall, through my reading of this, and I'm about 400 or so pages into Jade Legacy now, it's just really damn good. The character dynamics between each other, the dialogue, the focus, the heavy focus and emphasis on family ties and political maneuvering and government regulations and things that all circle around this Jade empire, essentially, that they're trying to build and control. It's just super fascinating. I love that Jade plays such an intricate role in the environment, and it's not just a magic system, it's a currency. It drives policy. The entire trade agreements are made around Jade. People view it differently than others. If you're a Jade warrior, you're a Greenbone and you're from Kakon, you're expected to be green. You're expected to carry Jade and fight on behalf of a clan. If you're from, Aspenia, probably not, because they don't really like having Jade there. So, seeing the cultural differences depending on where you're at in this series, and just seeing how the two warring clans, factions, whatever you want to call them, over Jade control and just, political and government takeovers and all the stuff that's going on is super interesting and fun and awesome to read about. I love the low fantasy feel to it because it's not a bunch of like wizards casting spells. This is really kind of like a modern-ish day setting, mafia tale with some magic thrown in via jade. So it's super cool and interesting. It's definitely unlike a lot of what I read currently in the fantasy genre. I love the Godfather-esque kind of feel to it, or like American Gangster. The emphasis on character interactions and intimacy and relationships is very much part of the narrative, and I appreciate that because it's done incredibly well. It's just one of the better fantasy series that I'm currently reading. Now, I know I'm probably the last person on YouTube to read these books. I'm way behind the rest of the world in getting to these, but the hype is accurate. They are very good, and I enjoy them a lot. So I'm super excited to finish Jade Legacy and see, how this all wraps up. All right, but that is what I read in the month of August. I've filmed this twice now. My throat hurts. I'm going to stop this video now. Let me know in the comments down below what you read in August, what you're excited about to read in September. Oh my God, I can't speak anymore. Bye.